Okay, so this video is for construction of the Friendship Star block. And if you are following along with me in the Sampler's Spree book by Susan Aki, you can find the cutting dimensions of all of these pieces on page 14. So we have our A block, our B blocks, our C blocks, and our D blocks. And that is all cut to the book's specifications. And the very first thing that we need to do is to take our A pieces and our B pieces and create half square triangles. Now, whenever you see a half square triangle in this book, or really in any pattern, that the measurements that they want you to cut it to lands at 7/8 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch, that means they're pretty much expecting you to create your half square triangle spot on. You might have a little teeny tiny hair's breadth amount to trim to get to the size that the pattern calls for, but for the most part they're not leaving you much wiggle room. So what I always do in that case is I always round to the next half size, which is only an additional 1/8 of an inch. For these ones ended up with 7/8 of an inch, and so I rounded up to the next whole inch, and that just made it a bit easier because now once I construct my half square triangles, I'll be able to trim them the way that I want them trimmed. So let's go ahead and create those half square triangles. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an A piece and a B piece, and we're going to put them together right sides together. And so we'll line those up right sides together. And you'll see over here, I'm on my Baby Lock Chorus, which is super handy because it's got this awesome laser beam. I also put this tape on mostly for your benefit. This is diagonal seam tape. For those of you who don't have a machine that has a laser guide, mine does, so that's what I use 90% of the time. You can see it extends way far out, which is great. For those who don't have a laser beam, the diagonal seam tape is a great way to keep your blocks aligned and to get that perfect 1/4 of an inch seam. So what we're going to do here is we are going to sew 1/4 of an inch off of the center line, so that's corner to corner. If you don't have a laser and you don't have diagonal seam tape, you can always just draw a line on the wrong side of the fabric, corner to corner. Okay, and then you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch on either side. If you have a laser or you have diagonal seam tape, you can just align. Oh, my machine turned off. You can just align your fabric along that line, and then you will be able to kind of use this either laser, which, how cool is this? This is on the Chorus. It's also on the Crescendo, and it's also on the Solaris. So just throwing that out there because you know me. I love me a Baby Lock. But so you can just kind of keep either your laser on top or you're aligning your fabric with this line here, okay? And so we're gonna go ahead. Oh. There we go. We're just gonna sew that on. And for speed, I'm chain piecing, so I'm gonna take the next set of A and B blocks, put them together. Align them in my machine, and off to the races I go. And so we'll snip that. We'll turn it around so you can see my stitch lined here. We'll turn it around, we'll align it on the same side here. And we'll stitch down the other side. And we'll do that again. And we'll clip these apart. I really dislike these snips. For some reason, I cannot find my good snips. So now you'll see we've got these stitch lines, and what we're going to do is we're going to, if you drew a line, you're going to cut them right on that drawn line. If not, you'll just use your ruler, align one of your stitch lines with a 1/4 inch mark and cut them apart, and then we'll trim. So meet me over at my cutting table so that you can see how that's going to work out. Okay, so we are now over at my cutting mat, and we have all of these items ready to cut up. Okay, so I do apologize a little bit about the camera quality over here at the cutting table, but you can see here that I've got these 2 lines. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take our ruler, and I am just, because I use the laser beam, in which case some of you might be using diagonal seam tape, I just line up my 1/4 inch line with one of those seams and I cut. And now I've got these 2 awesome pieces. And then I do the same thing on the other. And we've got these. So once you have separated up your half square triangles and you have pressed them open, it's now time to trim. Now, if you did it to the spot on measurement of the like 7/8 inch or 3/8 inch, then you don't have much to trim. You might be trimming off these dog ears, but that's about it. I always round up to the next half size. So in this case, it was a full size. But what I'm doing is I'm using my 4.5 inch square ruler. You can use a 6.5 inch. I mean, you could use any ruler, even your 6 by 24 you can use. What we want to make sure is that you've got a nice 45-degree angle line. And we're going to be placing this 45-degree angle line on top of the line that bisects our half square triangle. Now, we will be consulting our pattern, or in this case, Susanaki's book, to see what the finished size is. And what you want to do is you want to align that 45-degree angle properly, and you want to make sure that your half square triangle is totally covering that finished size so that you can trim it perfectly. Now, I am not including the exact dimensions in these videos because I am sharing these videos publicly to assist all of you, but I want to make sure that we are respecting the artist's craft. And so if you need the exact fabric requirements, fabric dimensions, please go ahead and purchase that pattern from Susan. You can purchase it either at your local quilt shop, or you can purchase it from the link below in the description. And so I am just going around and around here. And there you go. There is your perfect half square triangle. Now you're going to go through and you're going to make 4 of those, and once you are done with all 4 of these, we are ready to head back to the sewing machine to construct our Friendship Star Block. So I will see you in a moment. Okay, so we are back, and now it's time to actually sew together the remainder of this block, which is pretty straightforward. So we will put our D square in the center, and we are going to be using our C squares for the corners of our blocks. And then we will be placing our half square triangles strategically to create this layout. And so overall, that's what the block is going to look like. So we're going to go ahead and chain piece these together. Okay, so I'm just going to take these top two, put them together, and let me adjust this just slightly. And I'm going to sew them along this side using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, again, this is a great time to use that laser on the chorus or the crescendo or the solaris, or to use your diagonal seam too. I'm also going to be switching to a 1/4 inch patchwork foot. And just double checking that that's where it's supposed to be, which it is. I always double, triple check because I would so rather the time to double check than the time to seam rip. You know what I mean? Okay. So. Grab the next set. Line it up. And the third set. Now at this point, you can go ahead, remove these items, snip them apart, press them, and then add these third pieces. Or you can add the third pieces and then just press them all at the same time. But I'm gonna press them all because I like to quadruple check that everything is where it's supposed to be. And it's easier to see that if everything has been pressed and laid out. And I am pressing all of my seams open throughout this entire quilt because there's just a lot of seams in it, and so it ends up laying a smidge flatter if you press them all open. Okay, so now everything has been pressed, and now it's time to add this last row or last column to these rows. And now we will be putting all of these together. And this is where I start pinning because I really want to make sure that these line up. So I'm going to take this top row, I'm going to flip it down. I know I'm sewing along this top edge, so I'm going to pin, and I'm going to pin lining these seams up perfectly, and I pin right in my seams. sometimes you take off too fast on yourself and you create this problem. Tell me I'm not the only one who does that sometimes. You get so excited you just take off and you create a little bunch. Okay. So there's that. Nope. I'm really just batting 1 million today, huh? Okay, so now take off nice and smoothly and slowly. Pull the pin before you get there. And now we're going to press this. And something else I suggest doing throughout this process, and you'll see me do it in just a moment. I'll do it at the end of the block, but I do suggest doing this like seam by seam because it'll be a lot less trimming for you, is trimming all your stray threads. Again, there's a lot of seams here, so you're going to have little thread tails here and there, especially if you're somebody who, like me, is using the snips function on your sewing machine. So we've got that, and now we will place this onto here, and we'll be pinning that. And we'll pin it the exact same way we did the previous ones. You can see we're starting to get threads already built up, and this is block 1. And again, this is the Friendship Star. If you are following along in the Sampler's Spree book, this can be found on page 14. And see all of these, if you clip this while you're sewing, you then don't have to go ahead and give your whole thing a big haircut later on. I swear, I'm going to be over the moon when I find my good thread snips, because these are horrendous. So I'm going to go ahead and give this thing a good haircut. And like I said, it's just easier to do it as you're going instead of spending like 3 hours of your life trying to give your final quilt top a haircut. Your sewing machine will thank you. Your long armor, if you're choosing to send this out to a long armor, will thank you. So just go ahead and do that. Now, if you are a starch person or a best press person, this is your lucky day, because this is something I highly suggest for this quilt. I'm a best press person anyway, so I actually am best pressing this block as we speak, and you will see the final product in a moment. The flatter you can get these blocks to lie, the better, because again, there's a ton of seams and they're in every direction in this quilt top, and so the flatter you can get your quilt, the better. So here you go. Here goes the first block in your Sampler's Spree quilt. This is the Friendship Star. All right, folks, I'll see you in the next video.